Welcome to Writing a Screenplay. I am back here with the penultimate story in our horror anthology. Now, you might be wondering, why is he saying it that way? Well, this is supposed to be the second to last story in the horror anthology. There's this one, The Hidden Light, about the cult and Aleister Crowley and the secret church organization and this feud and monsters and there's monster hunters, all that stuff. And then there's the last one, which is Home Sweet Home, which is the ghost story. And that's not necessarily the case anymore. I had to do some reshuffling as far as what goes where, and I will do that in the next video where I'll probably be wearing this exact same shirt because I'm done with both of them. So let's get into, as of now, the penultimate um, segment, The Hidden Light. I'm going to be honest with you right now. I don't know why I'm being coy about it. This is the last segment in the story. This is how the movie ends. Okay, it was going to be Home Sweet Home, the ghost story, but for reasons of logic and timing, uh, it couldn't be. It Home Sweet Home had to be much earlier uh, because they're moving in the Good Boy, right? So like they're moving in the morning, and Home Sweet Home takes place at night. But where it was like days later, and nobody's still moving in days later. Like it didn't make sense, so I had to move it. So this right here, The Hidden Light, is how the movie ends, um, and I kind of love it. I kind of love it. I think it's a good story. We end it. It's fun. So let's just get right into it. You know the gist of it if you watch the notes video, so I might not go over too much of it. But yeah, it's exactly how the notes were planned out. Of course, there's a few changes, but overall, just like those notes that we did. That's why we do the work. So it kicks off in the church, and I'll scroll so you can read it if that's a thing that you want to do. Actually, let me get that outline out there because that doesn't even make sense anymore. That doesn't even make sense anymore. So here we go. Yeah, it kicks off at the church here. This woman Janine walks in, do 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 boom. She goes into a confessional booth where we meet Father Frederick Mackenzie, old man. It's your confession scene, and I've hurt people, Father, and in what ways, and you know, every ways. And she slowly starts to get a little crazy. Things get a little ominous and exciting. Um, and starts talking about these other people are hurting folks, and I'm not intervening. Um, and Father Mackenzie says, "Are they committing crimes?" And in every sense of the word, Father, what did they do? They killed people. They tortured them, performed disgusting acts on their bodies, cut them up. That's terrible. It is terrible, Father. What's worse is the ones doing it are priests, and this is where things pick up. She knows what you. I know what you've done, Father. I know what you are. Uh, so they have their little back and forth, and he does it. He pulls a statue, Bruce Wayne style, and releases a trap door to the confession booth. So she is locked into a cage below, which fun start to this segue. It's a fun start. We learn a lot in that. We learn there's monsters. She's a lichen. We learn the church aspect. Get we get a lot. We get a good amount, a good bang for our buck. And we did it by mostly showing. Yes, there is dialogue, but the actions through the dialogue still count as actions. So, uh, yeah, moments later we meet Father Toomey, who's like this marine-looking dude, big jacked guy, and they have a little Aaron Sorkin walk and talk to the front of the church. Um, yeah, Father Toomey just took care of a ghoul infestation, and it's gonna be so casual how they talk about it. I think that's gonna be a big aspect that makes it fun. And Father Mackenzie's has his doubts, like, is what we're doing right? like these monsters still exist. There's more than ever. What are we doing? So he has his doubts, and he says there's a meeting with the circle. There's a meeting of the circle. I've called a meeting of the circle. I might rewrite that. At this point, you're just trying to get it down. You can't. You got to give him a goofy name, something mysterious and cool and all that stuff. So, um, yeah. So there's a meeting downstairs. They go down. They go down, and we see that it's like a huge compound where there's like a library, an armory. There's prison cells, all that kind of stuff. So they're down there, and they go to this meeting of uh, with the circle here, and that's Father Toomey says, "Don't tell them about your weird thoughts on how we're all wasting our time." So they go down there, and it's a big. Opens the double doors and enters the meeting room. The space is similar to a war room. A long oval table, screens on the wall, and hologram maps on the table itself. I wanted to have a very futuristic look because a lot of times when it comes to these, secret organizations, just a splinter cell of the church, it's very ancient, and I wanted to update it. I wanted like, oh, these guys got money, they have technology, they're holy shit, they're on a whole other level. 11 men of the cloth sit at the table, most of them in hologram form. Most are bishops and cardinals. One of the holograms, Father Lopez, sees Father Toomey. This is an issue because there's Father this and Father that and Father, hey Father, how's your father? Hey, my father's good as your father. It's there's not a lot we could do with it. I've tried to minimize the damage on it. Like, look at this stretch of dialogue: Father, 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 Father. People are going to get confused, um, readers and producers, because they're idiots. So, hopefully they can manage. So, boom, boom, boom. Yeah, they're in this meeting talking about like there are more monsters than ever, but our numbers are the best they've ever been. But there's still what's going on out there, and this is where we meet Grandmaster Salima. She's in charge of the Hidden Light, and so we see her, and she's kind of a hard ass. And Father Mackenzie gives her a little, there's some back and forth on if what they're doing is right. Like maybe we can just live in peace with these creatures. Then he's like, "Are you living side by side with them as they eat our children and possess our souls." So they both have decent points, and so yeah, there's a lot of that. They talk about Father Samuel and how he was killed by a shifter, and Father Samuel is the man in the opening segment where Jill, the girl who's grounded in a room, ends up being a monster and kills the invader. He's the invader. He's a member of the Hidden Light, sent there to destroy this monster. Didn't do it though. Didn't crush it. So they're talking about, well, we still need to finish that. We still need to finish that. So they kind of mount up. They get their gear, and yeah, they head to. But before they roll out, a bunch of priests with bulletproof vests and shit. Fantastic. But before that happens, Father Mackenzie checks in on Janine and lets her go. He lets her go. Um, we don't say it. It's implied that I think he's going to let her go. We're going to find out later that he let her go. So then they get into the car park or parking lot, depending on what you want to call it. And they mount up, they gear up, they get into their church van. If you ever see a church van on the road, they might be off monster hunting. All right, you never know. So they go back to Jill's house. We haven't used this slug line in 106 pages, but we are back to Jill's house. Ooh, it's fun. And they just SWAT team it. Boom, the priests pour out of the van and storm the house military style within seconds. Um, yeah, the Jill's parents are watching TV and they're just, boom, taken. The father gets um, like tasered essentially. He gets hit with a some magical ammunition that takes him out of the equation. But no, he's only passed out from the pain. We're going to take you in because Father Mackenzie's tired of killing these people. I'll be able to spare one of you. Um, and of course, Francine, the mom, says, "Spare Jill. She's just a child." One of the priests that went upstairs flies down the stairs. Oh, I hate that. A bloody mess. Jill might be a child, but she can kill. So this is almost too humorous because while Mackenzie's down here talking to the parents, Jill's up there killing the shit out of these priests, and there's like blood splatters and heads rolling downstairs. Like it's it's crazy. Father Fraser, who's one of these men on this mission here, it's like, sorry, Fred, I have to kill this woman, this woman monster. And she says like, I'll tell you whatever you want to know, just don't hurt Jill. And of course, you don't have anything that we don't already know. And she says, I know where the vampire horde is coming from. Unfortunately, they do know that. So she's going to have to die. But she says, what about Crowley? And that gets the old priest's attention. What about Crowley? He's not dead. Ooh, Shazam. She's lying, Fred, desperate to save her ass. And this is where Jill escapes as well, while they're talking to Francine about Crowley's alive. What talk? Toomey comes back down, and it's just like the fucking girl escaped. He's covered in blood. His neck's severely wounded. Jill was up there doing her work. I love Jill. Jill's great. So, um, yeah, this isn't and what I've done here is interesting because I need to get this exposition out, and I think we can do it in almost like a nice voiceover. So they're talking to her. You tell us everything you know about Crowley. Because what now? They know, who this is, what the story is, what the backstory is, all that kind of stuff. But we as an audience don't. So this is how we get it out. So he says, um, Father Mackenzie says, we'll find Jill and finish the job. We will kill her if you don't tell us the truth right now. Choose your words very carefully. And Father Toomey says, tell us the truth about what? Because he was upstairs. So he says, tell us the truth about what? And that's when we get hit with this voiceover from Grandmaster Salima, where we get a bunch of exposition and we find out um, this voiceover is actually coming from her giving a speech in one of these circle meetings. Aleister Crowley was the leader of the Hermetic Order of the Golden Dawn, a cult devoted to the study and experimentation with magic and the paranormal. Most look back on Crowley and the Golden Dawn as bored white men pretending to be more than they were. Unfortunately, those people were wrong. So, and right here is where we see she is in the war room, actually giving the speech to human beings, not just the audience. Several of his rituals were indeed a success, and as you know, is one of the reasons otherworldly creatures have breached our earthly realm. Alistair was killed, or so we thought. Um, Boom, more exposition. We find out about that 6 month experiment where he had to lock himself into a house, but he had to call it off because of them. I've added that little wrinkle. The reason his ritual was interrupted. In real life, they say he had to go like I had to go back to New York because my people were arguing amongst each other and there was turmoil, so I had to play. It's all political bullshit that he had to deal with. Um, but I've made the hidden light here more responsible for it. So cool. But yeah, we find out that Crowley is still alive according to this shapeshifter, and he's moved into a suburban home, and he's been in there locked up for 6 months. So he's back at this ritual trying to bring one of the Dukes of Hell to Earth. So they mount up, and his house, by the way, it's the nice white picket fence, tall, pretty flowers. It's like the nicest old lady house you've ever seen. Once again, if you see it's one of these nice, sweet little houses, psh, you don't know what's going on in there. That's kind of what I'm trying to do with some of this stuff, just get you to think and worry, because you never know. You never know. So they go there, and they go in with a bunch of priests. It's they go in a bit more prepared than they did with Jill's house, because Crowley's he's a big fish here, and These priests keep getting killed. I'd say one by one, but it's actually two by two. uh, these two go into the kitchen and like, all right, like clear it. I was like, all right, you get the kitchen, you go down the hall. They go into the kitchen, all right, hall's clear. All right, let's get, what are our boys in the kitchen doing? They're fucking skinned alive and hanging from the ceiling. They've been in there for 5 seconds. Very scary house. Very scary house. And things like that happen until it's whittled down to Mackenzie, Toomey, and Frazier. Father Frazier. Refrigerator. Let's spell that right. Wow, I must have been fucking tired. Hidden door. So, uh, yeah, we whittle it down to those three. They find a hidden four behind the fridge, and they go into the basement, and there's lights, and there's chanting, and yeah, who's down there? But old Alistair Crowley, who says, they go down. When they go down there, he's chanting at this altar. And what's on the altar? All the bodies of the dead priests that were just killed moments ago. How'd those bodies get down there? How'd those bodies get down there? It's very scary stuff. Father, Jesus Christ, save us. And of course, Alistair says, Jesus will not save you. Ask again. Maybe this will be the time the imprisoned son will respond to you. What do you mean imprisoned? Uh, it's not time for questions, Frederick. It's time to die. This ritual will not be interrupted again. So just this line, the imprisoned son. What do you mean imprisoned? And then we don't even we get blue balled out of it. We don't even get an answer to it. Like, what does that mean? Jesus is the imprisoned son? Is Jesus in prison somewhere? What happened to Jesus? Just to show that there's other stuff going on. Give it that living, breathing feel. It adds to the legitimacy, which I enjoy. So, um, yeah, he's like, it will not be interrupted again. He said, I'm afraid it is. Didn't expect us, did you? Oh, I did. This plan of mine has been in motion long before a mere 6 months ago. I've, I've been. God, I was tired. I've been playing this for. How old are you, Lawrence? 29. Boom! Barrel of his gun against Father Fraser's skull and blows it to pieces. So this is where we see the marine-looking priest. Um, the old man's, second in command, is a traitor. He's been working with Crowley the whole time since apparently he was a boy. He's been groomed for this. Um, and Father Toomey does tell him, he says, I told you, Fred, they're all monsters. Because, Mackenzie's like, maybe monsters aren't so bad. This guy's been like, they're kind of shitty. And now we know why. He believes that because he's one of them. God damn. So, yeah, Father Toomey turns the gun on the old priest, but before he can blow him away, the traitor's Golden Dawn mole is tackled to the ground by a lichen. That's right, it is Janine. Um, and Crowley goes to grab a bejeweled skull artifact from the altar to do Lord knows what, some sort of spell or incantation, who knows? But right when the magical artifact is within his reach, a young female shapeshifter snags his arm in her gigantic jaws. It's Jill. So Janine, who was spared, and Jill, who was essentially spared, um, show up and save the day. They save this Father Mackenzie, um, and Father Mackenzie watches his unlikely rescuers do their work for a moment before going to the altar and starting an ancient prayer in Latin. While the priest prays, Toomey and Crowley are mauled to death by the monsters Father Mackenzie spared. Before long, the prayer causes a small earthquake, the house shaking violently. He turns to Janine and Jill, uh, both back in human form. Get out of here, and thank you. Janine and Jill sprint up the stairs as the priest makes the sign of the cross and finishes the prayer. Outside the house, the quaint house falls apart and is soon nothing but a pile of rubble. The empty space of the fallen lot allows the Genetech building to be seen in the background, and Biscuit the dog wanders down the sidewalk as the rubble smolders. Holy shit, that was weird. We're gonna go out with a laugh. We're gonna go out with the dog giving us a little laugh. And then that's how the movie ends. Like I said, this was the penultimate segment. is now the final segment. Still one more to look at. But this is how it ends. This is how it ends. So let me know what you think. I think it's a good story. It's got some scares. It's got some action. It's got some lore. It's got some cool world building stuff that's really gonna just fire off in your brain. Like, what? How does that mean this? And how deep does it go? Boom. Is the Pope involved? All that kind of stuff. And we go out. We see Jill again. We see Biscuit. We see the Genentech building. So it's a nice little farewell, from your friends. So that's gonna do it for the Hidden Light. Let me hang on a second. Let me fire this back up. Does it show it? No. Well, kind of. Right there it says the Hidden Light is supposed to be 17 to 20 pages. I am happy to report the Hidden Light is 18 pages. Finally did it. Finally got in the zone. So awesome. The next video is going to be Home Sweet Home. It's the ghost story. It's not how the story ends. The script ends. Um, but I'll show you the new outline where things are, the page counts, and where we're at. This is the final page count right here of um, the rough draft here. I'm trying to get rid of the outline. Get out of here. Get out of here, you. This is it. So it's 114 pages, which is not bad. It's not bad at all. If I would have kept, was it the midnight shift? The graveyard shift. The graveyard shift, the gas station story, this would easily be 125. And that's too much. I don't want to deal with that. Even as a rough draft, I'd rather not deal with that. So we did a little editing while we went about it. You know, you can do that. They say, "Oh, don't do it, don't do it, do it after the fact." If I've been doing this a while, uh, if you can manage it, it's not the end of the world. So, next video will be Home Sweet Home, and then we're going to talk about rewriting and what comes next with this screenplay. Thanks for watching. I will see you soon.